Hey YouTube, welcome back to another video. RJ Nick here, and today I've got a suggestion by one of my viewers. His name is Travis, and he wants me to create a video showing how the daylight sensor works. So I figured I would do just that. I'm going to create this little series showing you the basics of the daylight sensor. RGA Nick here, and you're watching the RGA Minecraft channel.
Don't you have any extra nana doses?
Over and over and over again. The entire thing is going up in flames. Let's find out. Now, for those of you who don't know, basically, the daylight sensor does exactly what it sounds like. It senses daylight, and it puts out a redstone signal, and sends it out in any of the four directions directly next to it. So if you took and put redstone lamps by it, you'll notice that they turn on. So it seems simple enough. And the other mode that this thing works in is if you right-click on it, it turns blue, which means it's now the opposite of a daylight sensor. It is a darkness sensor. But it's interesting because if you look at these, they're still turning on. So how is it sensing both daylight and darkness, but they're both still activated? So to explain this, I'm going to show you guys this little setup that I've got over here. As you can see, I've got a daylight sensor hooked up to one side, and I've got a darkness sensor hooked up to the other side. These blue blocks here don't really serve any purpose. They just mark off every fifth block, and that's important because a fully charged either daylight sensor or darkness sensor will put out a maximum signal of 15 blocks. So if I set the time back to roughly 6,000, you'll notice that this bank is completely off and this bank is completely on, except for the last block here, which, like I said, it will never get powered anyways, unless you use a repeater and feed it back in. But just from the block itself, it'll push it out 15 blocks, and this last one's just here to show you that it will not hit that last one. So with that said, what we can do is if I sat here long enough, you guys will be able to watch as the daylight sensor starts losing power. This one will start gaining it. And the daylight sensor is strongest when the sun is like roughly in the noon position, so pretty much right overhead, a little bit off to the side. But if I set it to, let's try 8,000, you'll notice that one block there lit up and one block over here turned off. So you can see the sun's a little bit farther away, and what's going on is it's getting darker. The sun's starting to go down, and this is starting to not absorb as much light. So as it gets darker, the daylight signal it puts out will get weaker and weaker up until the point where all of them shut off. Now as this one's getting weaker, this one here will start to get stronger. So the darker it gets, the stronger a signal this one will put out. So if instead of 8,000, if I do, let's do 12,000, you'll notice that now you just saw that one there shut off. Basically, for every block this one loses, this here will pick up a block. So there goes another block there, and the sun is quickly setting, and once it's completely dark out, all these here will shut off. Alright, and as you can see, it is pretty much completely gone. The sun is almost completely hidden now. As soon as that red glow pretty much goes away, the last light there will shut off, and you'll notice that the signal will become completely shut off on the daylight side, just like that. And now the nighttime sensor is fully charged. So that kind of explains the differences between the two. And I think that's why some people get confused, because they have a day sensor and they have a night sensor, and they figure during the day it's only going to put out a signal, and during the night this is only going to put out a signal. But in fact it is tiered based on the light levels around it. So, during the day, just because it's day doesn't mean that this is going to put out the full signal, and just because it's night doesn't mean day doesn't mean that the night sensor won't put out a signal as well. Each of the two are pretty much paired. As soon as this one loses a block, this one will gain one, and they will rotate back and forth based on the brightness levels. Now, something interesting to note is that these are only affected by daylight. So I can put torches all the way around here, and as you see, the oops, I right-clicked on that. As you can see, this is not activating. It doesn't go off of light based off of torches or anything like that. It goes off of the daylight itself. So that can come in handy, and I'll show you a little trick here in a second why that can be useful. But yeah, basically that's how that works. And I'm just going to set it back to, let's do 6,000 full day. So you'll see that these completely swap again. And let's go take a quick trip underground, and I'll show you something a little bit different that can give you a little more perspective on this. So we're underground, and I have a similar setup under here that I do above ground, but I've got two daylight sensors. Now one of them is directly under the hole, which lets in the light, and this one here is 2 blocks to the side. Now if I start walking back, you're going to notice that they're all lit up to the same levels, except when we get to the end, this bank here has 2 less blocks lit than this bank here does. And that's because it's getting less natural sunlight than this block here. Since it's 2 blocks further away from the sun, that's 2 blocks less power that it has to put out. So that can come in, handy as well. So if you're building a structure, you can start to close it in a little bit. And even though, like right now, there's no light shining on this, light's still coming in from all the way around there. So you can see that even though there's no light shining directly on it, and even if we go and do something crazy like this, and let's just, make this completely, let's just close this thing off completely, and we'll just have this little path here, you'll notice that it's still receiving sunlight because it's getting passed through the room, because the light kind of fills the room naturally. So even though there's nothing shining on this at all, you can go over here, there's no light coming in here, it's just coming from around the corner, it still has a signal to put out. It still gets enough light to put out a signal. And you can see that as we block certain things off, the light level gets lower to it. So blocks can affect the light, and there's a lot of different things you can do, lots of different types of blocks and stuff. So if you want to mess around with that stuff, feel free. But keep that in mind too, that if you're using these sensors and you have blocks covering it, that could actually, cause some problems for you. So that's just another example of basically, more ways to change the signal strength. So it's something to keep in mind. And the way that this could be useful is maybe you don't want, let's say you have like street lights set up all over your city, and you only want them to turn on when it's completely dark. So basically you would come down here and you would tap off this block here, and as soon as this one turns on when it's completely dark, then it would turn on your lights. Or let's say you don't want it to be that dark, but you don't want them to be turning on right now, because obviously it's not light, but this thing's already putting out a signal. So maybe you'd make a little run of redstone, maybe you want it here. So let's do 10,000. No, let's do 12. Okay, so maybe you want the lights to turn on at 12,000, which is pretty much where it is now. Or maybe you want it to be right here at 13, so it's not quite dark, but it's dark enough that you want those to turn on. So that's ways you can vary when these things actually turn on. And same thing, you could have reverse circuits that turn off when this one gets below a certain level too. So that's one way to use that. Now, here's a fun trick that you can play on your friends. So as I showed you guys before, the light sensors will not be affected by torch light. So if I put this down here, and I have a daylight sensor down here, you're seeing that it's, right now it must be completely dark out because it's not putting out any signal at all. So let's set it back to midday. So it's getting out a full signal, and I'm just going to close this off for a second. So right now there's no signal at all going into this thing, and here's a fun little trap that you can make for your friends. And basically the way this is going to work is you're going to have this little secret room here, and as soon as someone digs through the surface, it's going to blow up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put TNT in these little holes around here. And this is the same way I made my exploding tree video, if you guys haven't seen that. Definitely check it out. But this allows you to create an underground room like this, put it directly attached, the little TNT blocks all the way around here. I'm going to double stack it just because that way it'll make a bigger explosion. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, if someone breaks through this roof, it's going to shine light through here. And as long as they're not doing it in the middle of the night, then it will blow up. So in order to get out, you need to actually completely go in a spot and make sure you wall off completely so that no light gets in. So if I break this block right now, this whole room's going to blow up. But now that I've got myself sealed off, I can break through, and you'll notice that it's not blowing up. So, I mean, you could put diamond ore here, and I probably should have done this before. But let's pretend like this one and the one below it's diamond ore. So someone's going to be like, oh, look at that, diamonds. They're going to break this one, and if this one was diamond ore too, they're going to break this one. And all of a sudden, TNT's lit up, and next thing they're going to know, there's a giant hole in the ground where they were. So that's pretty much, like I said, how I made the exploding tree video. Basically all I did, actually I won't even show you guys because it's basically what I just did there, and it's in the exploding tree video as well. So yeah, that's pretty much all there really is to it. You know, you could set up TNT to go off as soon as it gets to a certain brightness. So let's say you're messing with your friend's house in the middle of the night. You set up a nice little daylight sensor or a darkness sensor, and as soon as it gets to a certain level, then their house is going to blow up, and you could be completely across the map, and they'll have no idea what's going on. But let's just set time to, I don't know, let's do 10,000, because I think that should be dark enough. Oop, no, it's close, it's right there. But yeah, you could set this up. It's like a long delay fuse, so you could just completely mess with your friends. Now, that would suck to blow someone's house up, but, you know, you got to do it every once in a while, I guess. Someone's got to do it. I'm not much of a griefer. Anytime I've ever done stuff like that, I've always had the world backed up just to be able to restore it after that. But yeah, sorry this was a little bit long of a video. I didn't expect it to be this long. I just wanted to really cover as much of the topic as I could, and I really hope this clears it up for you guys. So thanks again to Travis, who suggested this topic, and if you guys have any other topics and suggestions that you want to see accomplished, definitely make sure to leave it in the comments, and I will try to make a video on it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again soon.